Now, I would like to give floor to Mrs. Nuria Martínez de Castilla, and she will have her lecture in Spanish. You have the floor, Nuria.
Thank you. Aprovechando que estoy en casa, voy a utilizar también el idioma de casa. Y me encanta hablar después de...
I love talking after Professor Rolik because I'm going to be talking about the collection from San Lorenzo del Escorial. I'm not going to talk about the manuscripts in themselves. I'm going to be talking more about the history of this collection and how these manuscripts ended up in our hands and in the line of what Mr. Rolik has presented. The history of the Arabic manuscripts of the Escorial coincides with the history of the monastery in itself in 1584. This is the time of Philip II, and he knew that he wanted to have a library near the palace, away from the university circles of Alcalá or Salamanca, even if his counselors had recommended him to have a library near those places. This is how, at the beginning, he decided to create this library under the care of the Hieronymite monks in San Lorenzo del Escorial, a magical, isolated and silent place in 70 kilometers from Madrid. The king, Philip II, was personally interested in the project of a library, and through a group of scholars and ambassadors, he managed to locate and buy books and manuscripts from all Europe, from libraries, cathedrals, monastery libraries, and archives from the Inquisition. This idea reflected perfectly the spirit of the 16th century Europe, that included not only codices in Arabic, Persian, and Turkish, but also manuscripts and prints in Hebrew, Latin, Greek, Spanish, Italian, French, Catalan, and Portuguese. It seemed impossible to think that in those days there were manuscripts written in Arabic or Hebrew, taking into consideration that we're talking about 1492, the expelling of the Jews, the forced conversions into Christianity, and the prohibition of the use of Arabic from 1567 onwards, without forgetting the burning of Arabic manuscripts in the public squares, especially during the times of Cardinal Cisneros. As I mentioned, the king was very interested in the knowledge conveyed by these Arabic manuscripts. Even one of his counselors, Alonso del Castillo, who worked for the library, tried to seek for these volumes in the archives of the Inquisition, trying to choose the most interesting ones for the Royal Library. In 1576, there's an inventory that mentions 67 Arabic manuscripts, and they are mentioned as spoils of war specifically. How did these end up in the library? Through different channels. On one hand, we have the spoils of war, as the manuscripts that were taken by Charles V during the expedition to Tunisia in 1535, or during the Battle of Lepanto in 1571. we have manuscripts of these battles in El Escorial, and we also have manuscripts that come from previous collections and that were purchased by the king, as, for example, the libraries of Diego Hurtado de Mendoza with 256 Arabic manuscripts, or Benito Arias Montano. Some copies of these Arabic manuscripts seem to have been produced in the Iberian Peninsula, but they're not very old. According to Braulio Justil Calabozo, the number of Arabic manuscripts kept in the library in 16,000 was amounted to more or less 500 manuscripts. The Arabic manuscripts that integrated this first collection was not very important in quantity, but the bulk of the collection arrived later during the kingdom of the heir of Philip II, with Philip III. This king was known for having expelled the Moorish, the last Muslims in Spain during the 17th century, and paradoxically he was responsible for the inclusion of the most significant Arabic manuscripts, turning itself into the most important collection. In May 1612, the Moroccan Sultan, Moulay Saidan, one of the sons of Ahmad al-Mansur, was facing an uprising in the central area of his kingdom. The situation was so tense that he had to flee to Marrakesh, and then he had the intention of going to Agadir, where he could find support. In Safi, he sailed 2 boats, one French, one Dutch, and he loaded all his belongings in them. Among others, the library that he had inherited from his father. In the French ship that was captained by Jean-Philippe de Castellane, was called Notre-Dame de la Garde. He was in charge of taking jewels and other belongings together with the library funds. Both boats arrived safe and sound to Agadir, and Castellane expected to receive 3,000 ducats as payment for the transport. But after a few days in Agadir, he realized that he was not going to receive that quantity, and he decided to set sail to Marseille. But during his journey, Notre-Dame de la Garde, the ship was persecuted and finally captured by 3 Spanish ships. In this way, the library of the Moroccan Sultan Moulay Saidan ended up forming part of the library of Spanish King Philip III. The different sources of the 17th century talk of around 3,000 to 4,000 manuscripts. Probably the second figure is more accurate. The incorporation of this collection into the El Escorial library turned it into the most important, the biggest European one. The collection was one of the most important ones, as I said. Arabic funds of the Library of the University of Leiden, one of the most important ones from the first quarter of the 17th century, had more or less 300 copies. Castellane, the captain of the boat, had been appointed French consul in Morocco, and he became an official agent of the French king. On the other hand, France and Spain were at peace, and considering that Spain had captured a French boat, that was a clear breach of international law. But this is the Western interpretation. As Robert Jones mentioned, there's a different interpretation according to Moroccan sources. There's a brief passage mentioned by Dutch Orientalist Eppenius, who said that a Numidian betrayed the Sultan and gave the information to the Spaniards. So in this case, Maybe this would be a premeditated attack with the objective of capturing this specific library. And if we accept this hypothesis, this would be an exceptional case in which the looting of the books would be the objective of the attack in itself and not a collateral damage, not just a collateral damage of this attack. It would be the objective in itself. In any case, it seems that Sultan Mulay Zaidan sent a delegate to the United Provinces, the name of the Netherlands in those days, to be able to get support and convince the French king to support him against Spain and to get the library back to Moroccan territory. The French did not accept this collaboration. In 1617, the Moroccan Embassy in Istanbul explained the situation to the Grand Vizier, waiting for, and explained the whole history, and they waited for an answer that never arrived. According to Spanish sources, Mulay Zaidan offered Philip III an important quantity of money to be able to return this library to Morocco. But the king said that in that case he would have to free all the Christian slaves that existed in Morocco. So this request was denied, and Mulay Zaidan could never recover those books. In 1651, after a request of the son of Mulay Zaidan, the Duke of Medicinelli recommended Philip IV to return the books to Morocco, but the State Council denied this possibility. In 1766, a Moroccan representative was able to visit the Library of El Escorial, and he took with him some manuscripts to Morocco. Among them, the famous Quran of Lepanto, whose whereabouts are currently unknown. The diplomatic and cultural importance of this collection is still very significant. In 2008, the Spanish kings visited the Library of Alexandria, and they donated a microfilmed copy of the Arabic manuscripts of El Escorial. At the same time, together with Muhammad VI, Juan Carlos I, the King of Spain, delivered a copy of these codices to the National Library of Morocco. In any case, for historians, the capture of the Mulay Zaidan library has a positive outcome. It is one of the few Islamic libraries that have remained undamaged until nowadays. With the Sadian library that exists in El Escorial, we can more or less know what the collection was like in 1612, because it has been kept, so to speak, mummified, and we cannot say the same things of other Arabic libraries. The majority of the collections have been scattered, and very few have reached our current days, and they also date from the 16th and 18th century. It is also very difficult to determine the period of each collection unless there's a specific catalogue to indicate it. This is not the case of the Sadian library. It has been kept practically intact, also considering that from 1712 onwards the new acquisitions went to the new National Library of Madrid and not to the Royal Library of El Escorial. But we can mention the fire that affected the Monastery of El Escorial in 1671. A lot of manuscripts, prints, Arabic, Latin, Greek were burnt by this fire, despite the efforts of the monks to protect them from the flames. As a consequence of this, and for other preservation reasons, a lot of these, the bindings of these codices were substituted by different ones. Nearly 2,000 Arabic manuscripts are preserved nowadays in El Escorial, and they can bring a lot of information with regard to intellectual material subjects, opening new ways of work. It is an essential tool for new researchers, and it has remained practically intact for 4 centuries.
Muchas gracias, Nuria, por tu intervención, o más bien presentación.
Nuria, for your presentation. Nuria, I would like to ask you a question.
Como en las épocas después de conversiones forzadas y expulsión, uno se pregunta, ¿qué tipo de lectores podían tener estos manuscritos?
Actually read these manuscripts, were these monks or were they Arabists, etc. Well, in the 16th century in Spain, if we look into this time, this is an excellent question, because in 1502, the forced conversion of Muslims into Christianity, the Spanish Muslims into Christendom, the Arabic stopped being spoken, and from 1577 it's a language that is totally forbidden officially. There's manuscripts are burnt, Arab manuscripts are burnt by Cardinal Cisneros, and at the same time Arabic is being taught in universities in Salamanca, in Alcalá de Henares. And why is Arabic being taught? Well, the main goal was to translate the Bible. Knowing the Arabic language will allow to know Hebrew better, and therefore know the Bible better. The king knows, and his counselors tell them that the Arabic science is very important, the Arab science is very important, and is going to be conveyed through the manuscripts. So he compiles them, and who could read those manuscripts? Nobody. And there were very few people who could read them, and he was aware of that. And Arias Montano, he was a scholar and a counselor of the king, and he tells the king that he shouldn't worry. He suggests him to gather the most varied manuscripts from different authors, with the most special manuscripts and unique manuscripts that you can find in Europe, because even though today there might not be people who are capable of reading it, in the future there will be experts, and this will be the most important library of all times. So at the beginning they were truly for the use of the Hieronymites, monks, but they were very aware of this lack of knowledge of Arabic language to read these manuscripts, but they knew that at some point there would be people who would be able to read them, and this would turn the library in an excellent library, a great library. I have another question. We have talked about the preservation of manuscripts, and I suppose the digital world is having a certain impact in the use of manuscripts by researchers. And I assume that back in the year of the fire, we could have saved those manuscripts by scanning them. Do you think there is any initiative about this? Well, that would have been the dream of all our Arabists, that there would have been a way of scanning, or at least copying, these manuscripts that were burned in the fire, that were amounted probably to half of their collection. We think that we might have lost about 2,000 manuscripts in the fire. Nowadays, all manuscripts in the library have been digitalized. They are in microfiles, and this is the copy that was provided to the Alexandria Library and the Rabat University Library. They're not published online. We need to ask them from the library. The Royal Palace Library has another copy of those manuscripts as well. And for the conservation and preservation of those manuscripts, it's more than necessary to have a copy in a microfilm and a scanned copy, color copy, with the highest quality. Also, including indexing those manuscripts is very important to know what's inside of these manuscripts. Not everybody speaks the language, and not everybody has the time to go to the libraries and check those manuscripts in person, but sometimes somebody might be interested in a particular topic, and the first tool is to resource to catalogs that are very difficult to compile. Researchers take years to compile those catalogs, and sometimes this work is not fully recognized. And however, this is an essential tool. We're trying to make a new catalog of the El Escorial library. The 17th, 18th, and part of the 19th century have already been catalogued, and we are trying to re-index them all. And there's a European project going on that started a few years ago, and this was about a direct study of the material part of this collection, and we hope that this project will be fruitful in the coming years, and it will provide us information about this collection in the coming years. Thank you very much, Nuria. It was great to hear you.
Thank to all speakers that were presented with us tonight. And I would also like to open the floor to public, the audience, if someone has a question.
Is there any other question? No, well, thank you very much. Thank you for being here with us tonight. It was thank you to all our speakers, and in particular to Casa Árabe for organizing this event with us tonight.
Had also some fun and some deep knowledge of Islamic manuscripts. Thank you very much.